Hi, I'm Eric Johnson here at Owen Graduate School of Management, and I'm here today with Derek Young. Derek is president of Fidelity Investment Global Asset Allocation Group and a 1991 grad of the school. Well, Derek, it's just great to have you here today.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be here. It's always fun to come back to Owen. I feel like I'm coming back home whenever I'm here, and today has been no exception. It's been a real fun experience.
Awesome. Well, 20 years now at Fidelity, the industry's changed a lot. What are some of the things that you've really focused on and noticed in that change?
Yeah, so if you think about the investment industry, right? You think about the demographics of the country. You think about boomers, right? They really work so hard to try to think about how do you save money? How do you accumulate wealth? And so we've seen a tremendous wealth accumulation over the past 2 decades. Certainly while I've been at Fidelity, I witnessed this firsthand. And a lot of that wealth accumulation actually came from people thinking more about solutions that were generally the right size that fits most type solutions, right? Asset allocation in a general sense, using target date funds based on when you retire and basically letting other people manage the allocations for you in a very generic fashion, which has been awesome in terms of wealth creation. Now what we see is as the boomers get closer to retirement, they want to make sure they have that certainty about, am I making the right decision, right? So there's no bigger decision that most people will make at that stage of life than thinking about when should I retire? Do I have enough money to retire? Once we see a lot of our customers get to that stage, they really begin to shift out of the one size fits most to give me the size that fits me. And that's the shift to personalization.
Yeah.
So you see a real shift in personalization in the investment industry. And that's really the trend going forward. We expect to see more and more of that. If you think about what's going to happen over the next decade, you're going to see an expectation that you're going to provide more and more personalization, and by the way, do it at a cheaper and cheaper cost. So that's the real challenge for the industry.
So when you think about your role now in global asset allocation, what are some of the things that you maybe learned in school and getting your MBA that really prepared you for your role today?
Yeah, global asset allocation, if you just look at the basic core fundamentals of what it is, it's actually combining strategies, various strategies of different asset classes together. So you have a lot of different underlying managers, right? So you have equity managers, you have fixed income managers, you have alternatives managers, and you combine them all together. In order to do that, if you're running an asset allocation fund, if you're managing an asset allocation team, you have to think about the team orientation. It really requires a team in order to build a strategy that's ultimately going to provide the right risk and return profiles for our clients. And so in order to do that, it really is this team orientation focus that, by the way, I attribute largely to my time here at Owen. Because as you know, at Owen, we focus so much on teams and working together. How do you build up your team member? How do you make them better, stronger? If your team members are strong, they actually pull up the group as a whole. And that's what I love about what we do here at Owen. Matter of fact, walking around the halls here, you see all the groups of 4, the clusters out by the tables, and you remember those days of sitting there working with 3 other people, for example, where you knew that you had to pull your weight, and you were hoping they were going to do the same,
Yeah,
right?
that's right?
And we learned that,
That's right.
and that's what you get to see from my standpoint in global asset allocation. I want teams that everybody thinks I don't want to be the weakest link. I want to be there to make everybody else stronger. I don't want to tear my partner down. I want to build them up. And ultimately, that's how we create the best possible global asset allocation capabilities at Fidelity. And that's what I love about what I do every day, because I feel like I can take these learnings from Owen and then overlay them on that business.
So this morning at your opening bell talk, you spent some time talking about leadership principles and how important they've been for you in your career and kind of the arc of your career. And I was wondering if you could share some of those principles.
Yes, indeed. So I've tried to go through and think about what are some basic principles that hopefully would be applicable to everyone in all different industries. And first I started off with integrity, and then client-centric, and then creativity and nonconformity, and then accountability, and then finally have fun. And so if I look at it, you think about integrity, right? There's no time in our history in the investment industry that is more important to demonstrate integrity. It's other people's money. They're trusting you to manage it for them. So you need this integrity. It needs to shine through in everything that you do in order for people to have that ultimate trust in you to give them their money, right? They're going to give you their money, right? So that's a huge level of trust. Secondly, to think about client-centric. You cannot solve the challenges that clients face unless you're talking to them and you understand what those challenges are. Ultimately, you want to build solutions that actually help them solve their challenges. You can't do it, again, without being client-centric. So that's so important in everything that we do, quite frankly. And then the third issue was thinking about creativity and nonconformity. think about innovation. What is it that we need to do to innovate? In the investment industry, we see a lot of challenges as we think about fixed income going forward. So fixed income, historically, certainly the last couple of decades, has been a great asset class for providing a terrific risk and return profile. So actually, we've had positive returns with this big, huge rally in credits over the past couple of decades, with a risk profile that's certainly relatively less than equities as a whole. Now, if you think about it going forward, are we going to get that same risk and return profile? So we're thinking about how do we innovate to ultimately provide that stability in a portfolio and maybe innovate away from fixed income as we look and think about ways to do that. So that's one of the challenges we face. And obviously, innovation is just going to continue to be a source of a competitive advantage in any industry, but certainly in investments. We see it at an all-time high from that standpoint. The level of innovation, the amount of money that's chasing new opportunities out there to do things differently and solve problems differently has really shown up. If I go through and think about accountability, it's very simple, right? It's like, how do you hold people accountable for what they do? What gets measured gets managed. And so there is this feedback loop of how do you determine what you're holding someone accountable for. Ultimately, people love to be held accountable because that's how they get respect, right? Sure. They deliver, they get respect. And it actually provides a huge amount of personal satisfaction if you set it up, those metrics the right way. And then finally, have fun. I say life is way too short not to have fun. It's very important, right? You have good days, you have bad days, but at the end, you should have a lot more good days than bad days. You should love what you do. And I often tell people on my team, if you don't love what you do, go find another job, right? Yeah. Because life is too short, and you spend so many hours at the office and working with the people in the office that you want to make sure that you have fun and that you enjoy it. I think that's true inside the office as well as outside the office. I love teams that are cohesive enough where you want to have friendships with the people you work with. For me, that's the ultimate measure of achieving success as a manager, is when you have management teams that are phenomenally close, and if they're close, they trust each other. Yeah. If you trust each other, you can have candid conversations when you need to have it. So it's always been one of my key objectives with my teams there at Fidelity.
Well, those are 5 great lessons, I think, for any industry. Derek, thanks so much for spending the day with us.
Eric, thank you.